Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of So Recently. I'm one of your hosts, Miranda, joined with me, as always, Matt. And today we got a kind of fun topic. Our very first episode actually was board games. Some of you might know or, remember. We're kind of going back to that, and we're going to be talking about specifically card games. Now, Matt, you play way more than me, that's for sure. I don't really play a lot of card games. Is there a game that you're playing recently?
Yeah, so we were talking about, or at least I wanted to go back to the well, which is board games, because I love board games. It's probably my biggest hobby, or the hobby I'm most invested in at the moment. And card games especially lately have been really big for me. And I was thinking about it, and card games are a physical medium for sure. Like, I play with people in person. But then the game that kind of I was thinking about as I was texting you about this was Slay the Spire, which is a digital game. It's a video game. And it's also a board game too. But I'm playing it as a video game, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. And so just kind of thinking about how card games are so different than board games, how they're more accessible and they're a lot easier and quicker oftentimes, or they're like way too complicated and like super time investment, huge experiences. And I've played all sorts of different kinds of them, and so like kind of all different levels of that. And yeah, I just thought it'd be a fun topic to talk about. So yeah, Slay the Spire is kind of what prompted it, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering because that's one that I've actually played, and I love that game. It is so much fun, and I'm really excited for Slay the Spire 2 to come out.
Yes.
So I'll give that a go for sure. I need to get James into it because I think he would really like this game. And he's only really played with me once, and it was like a few months into us dating, and he saw me playing, and he was like, oh, what's that? And I was like, a really fun card game. But yeah, Slay the Spire, so much fun.
It's a ton of fun, and I guess for listeners, if you haven't played it before, it is, I feel like, pretty mainstream, but also still like you kind of have to be into video games or board games, I guess, to be aware of it. But it's a game where you have a deck of cards, and the deck of cards are attacks and defends and different variations of the types, and you're kind of going through a gauntlet of enemies and making choices and trying to build your deck in a way that lends you success and gets to the end of the spire, which is like the big dungeon that you're going through. And there's different characters and different abilities, and it's a ton of fun, and it's kind of one of those games that's almost like endlessly replayable. Like I've checked the hour count on Slay the Spire on my Nintendo Switch, which I've been playing it on recently, and it says I only have 150 hours, and there's like no way that it's only 100. It seems low. Like, I think it's not tracking accurately, because Slay the Spire is one of those games where if you asked me, I would probably assume I've played just offhand like 300, 400 hours, because I play it all the time, randomly, do a run of Slay the Spire. It takes about an hour, and I feel like I play it like every other day. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it seems low, but it's really fun. And I don't know, that's just like one type of card game, but that's like the digital card game, right? And I know like card games, you typically think of like the physical board game style, like play it at a table, but yeah, it's one that I'm really into lately. But yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoy the game. I think it's a ton of fun, but it's probably like one of the more complex games that I would say that I played for like a card game.
Yeah, and that's saying something, because like I normally don't really like complex games, but even I can figure it out and have fun with it. So if you don't like complex games, it's still a lot of fun. I would highly recommend it for anybody who is interested in maybe getting into digital card games. I know there's another newer one that came out, not Slay the Spire, but Balatro. Mm-hmm. Have you played it yet? I have not. Is it as addicting as I hear?
Yes, I have. Yeah. It's pretty good. So I think I like Slay the Spire better, but I think for immediate like pickup, easy to play addictiveness, it might be better.
Okay.
So I think there's a lot of depth in it that I probably haven't gotten through yet, but you essentially have a deck of cards and you're dealt a hand, and essentially your hand could be like 8 cards, 9 cards, and it's just normal deck of cards, like a 52 deck of cards. And so you are basically trying to score points with those cards, and there's ways that those points are calculated, but you're going to play poker hands. And so you play like a pair, or like 2 pair, or you go like a 3 of a kind, like you 3 of a kind, full house, all the typicals.
Okay, poker. Got it.
Yeah. It's like poker, but you're not playing against anybody. You're trying to get the best hands, and you have so many hands to like, you'll have like 4 hands, and you can play 4 different hands throughout this little mini session, I guess, right? It's like a instance, or like they're called blinds. So you have to meet a blind, and you have 4 hands to do it. And once you do it, then you go to the next blind, and then you eventually go to a boss blind. And so it's basically like you're trying to hit this score. And that sounds like kind of super boring without any sort of more details. So the gimmick of the game is in between every blind, you're going to be earning money from doing the blind, and the blinds are going to get harder and harder. So what you can do is you go to the shop and you can buy Joker cards, and the Joker cards are added to your multipliers, and it kind of gives you incentive to maybe try to play certain types of hands. So for example, maybe you kind of get a Joker card, which every time you play a pair, that pair of cards gets upgraded to the next highest number. So say you play like 2 5s, well, now they're 2 6s, or,
okay.
Stuff like that. Like, I don't even know if that's one. I just made that up. But there's a lot of different types of Jokers, and they kind of incentivize you to play certain ways. Then there's also other cards that you can get that can upgrade cards in your deck. So maybe you switch it so instead of having 4 aces in your deck, you have 10 aces in your deck. Or maybe your deck is 60 cards, or maybe your deck is only 30 cards, right? There's all these different ways that you can kind of change how your deck works.
Okay.
And then there's different decks you can get, and really you're just kind of running this over and over and over again. The fun part of the game, beyond just the fact that it's really fun to see the number go up and up and up, because eventually, at first your small blind is like, oh, I need to score however much, and by that end of that first little act, you have to score like 300 points. It's like, oh man, this is going to be tough. By the end of it, you're scoring like millions and millions of points. And so it's just kind of fun to see that go. But the other fun part of it is the music is like insanely trancey, I guess would be like the way I would say it. Like it's just a vibe.
Okay, so it basically helps you get into the zone. It just completely zonifies you into the world of Balatro, and you're like, I'm gonna play this game forever.
Yeah, it feels like you I don't know. I'm not a straight edge type of guy, I guess, but I'm also not someone who does psychedelics. But I imagine if I did psychedelics and played poker, it would feel like that.
Oh, okay, fun.
Yeah, so I would say it is really interesting, because it's just kind of wavy and hazy, and the music just kind of ebbs and flows, and it's really fun and kind of very addicting to just run it back super quick. So if you fail, you just restart and you just go again. And that's part of the fun of both games that I was talking about here with Slay the Spire and Balatro are roguelikes. So kind of like a video game, or even board game style, but it's a pretty popular video game genre where you do a run and you see how far you get, and then you do it again. And so you're always kind of restarting from scratch and trying to see. It's like a high score game. It's like a new way to do it, I guess. So you're always resetting. You're not getting forward progress that you're going to carry over game to game. You're just redoing it every time, but you might unlock the opportunity to get more Joker cards, or better cards in Slay the Spire, or different events in Slay the Spire that you'll suddenly see because you've leveled up so much.
Right.
It's really, really fun. So I love those games. And those are obviously the digital card games, and you can do some interesting stuff with digital card games that you really can't with a physical card game, obviously. You're duplicating cards, or you're you're changing things in ways that don't make sense. Obviously, you're not going to count out 1,000,000 some points in a poker hand with real cards, but it's very fun in the digital format.
Okay, yeah. I have not tried Balatro yet. I'm a little afraid to, because I feel like I would get addicted to it. And I don't have time to get addicted to a card game right now. I'm a little busy.
What if I told you could play it on your phone?
No, that's not good. I don't know. That makes it worse. Are you kidding me? No.
Yeah, I downloaded it on my phone and played one hand, and I was like, nope, and I haven't opened it since. But we'll see, because it seems like one of those ones that could be a mess.
I can't. Yeah. I can't get addicted to it. I am far too busy right now in life. I cannot get addicted to it.
Yes, I'm not addicted to Balatro at the moment, but I don't know. I keep thinking about going back to it, because I've been playing a ton of Slay the Spire, but maybe just like a different flavor of game would be fun.
Another card game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for like that's for digital, right? But is there any physical card games that you've been playing any recently, or like any favorites of yours?
Yeah, so there's, I guess, a lot of different types of card games, right? And so, like, there's a standard, like, 52 deck of cards. Like, you can play War, you play Cribbage, you play poker, all of that.
Oh, golf.
Golf. I actually just learned golf
Sorry,
recently. Yeah, it's really fun.
Oh yeah, I just had a memory. I used to play with my grandma, and I don't remember how to play, but I remember it being called golf, and I have to get the lowest score, but I don't remember how to play.
I don't totally remember how to play, but a friend of mine introduced me to it when we were at a brewery once, and yeah, it's a cool game. I don't totally remember either, but it's kind of goofy. It's kind of like some guesswork, if I remember correctly. So sorry, that's not helpful for audio listeners, but look up the game golf, I guess.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, which you maybe have to do
golf
some
card game.
Yeah, do some special search terms, because I suppose if you just Google golf, you're probably not going to find what we're telling you about. But golf, deck of cards.
Like this is a memory from like when I was maybe like 8 or 9, like at my grandparents' house, because there was nothing else to do in the tiny town they lived in.
Yeah.
So grandma would get out a deck of cards and we would play golf. And I don't remember the rules, but I remember it being called golf.
It was a fun game. I definitely need to learn it. And that's something I feel like is admittedly a weak point in the fact that I am a pretty avid board gamer, pretty avid card gamer, but I barely know any games with decks of cards. And so that's a me problem, but something I probably should work on. But yeah, so there's a couple different games, I guess. Right now, with our friend Nick, I've been playing the One Piece card game, which is fun and on brand for this podcast, because I've talked about One Piece a few times maybe, and have casually hinted that I'm a fan. And so yeah, casually. And so that's been a lot of fun, actually. It's very similar to like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. Just like a different flavor, right? Like there's some differences in how the game works. That game is really fun because you're kind of going head to head. And so there's a lot of like head to head card games I really enjoy. Those are all different types of them. I think like Magic is the one people are probably the most familiar with, which I used to play, but I wouldn't say I play regularly or really have played in a long time.
That was definitely something that you and everyone got into a lot in like college, I would say.
Yeah, that was like a college group thing.
Yeah, I played once or twice, but with like Nick's deck of cards, and Nick would stand behind me and point at the cards I should play, and he would just start giggling. He'd be like, play that one.
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I feel like if I got into it with you guys, I would have been all over it. It would have been really fun.
It's like one of those things, and I feel like One Piece is very similar. Like a lot of those are like collectible card games, so like Pokemon as well, where like some of the fun of it is in the collecting, which we've talked about before, but a lot of the fun of it is getting into it with friends and then changing your decks and like creating your decks in a way that are interesting and exciting, and you can be like, oh, this is the deck I made now, look, it does this really weird thing, and you don't know how to deal with it. That's a lot of fun with those types of games, but those games are like huge money pits. So for people who are listening, just recommend, like, do not play these games unless you are very much willing to go down a rabbit hole as far as spending goes, because like these games have entry points of like $20 where you can buy a starter deck. But I mean, for One Piece, people spend thousands of dollars on cards. For did I say One Piece? I meant Magic, but also One Piece for sure.
And Pokemon.
Yeah, they all are that way. Like, people spend tons of money on cards because you're trying to open packs and you're trying to get the best cards, and obviously you can buy things directly, but part of the fun is opening packs and seeing what's in them.
Absolutely.
So they're very fun, and I feel like they just get better the more you invest into them, as far as like the game mechanics get better. But I think some of the fun of it is if you have a budget limit, or you put some arbitrary limitations on yourself with those games, so you have to work in like certain, the confines of what you have, rather than I'm going to buy every card I want specifically online. Yep. I think it makes it more fun because you have to do a little bit weirder things, and you have to work within some kind of tough frameworks, I guess. So I would highly recommend that if you play those games. As soon as one of my friends spent a lot of money on Magic, we all tapped out.
Yep.
We all tapped out. We're like, that's enough. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole of like handpicking every single card. Like, we want to just have fun with it. Right. So I would say that's like something I would recommend, unless you just want to be a collector and collect all the One Piece cards and Sure, yeah, you can, but probably not your best idea. So I've been playing a lot of that One Piece game recently. There's also a couple other like board game card games, I guess. So a lot of the board games that I really enjoy integrate cards into them, and so like they're called deck builders oftentimes. They're not all deck builders, but a lot of them are. And you will get, a starter deck of cards, kind of like Slay the Spire or like Balatro, and you can kind of work through it and add new things. And so your deck will start pretty crappy. It won't be the most useful, and you'll add cards to it, and you'll remove cards from it, and kind of create a deck that you can work with a lot better. It's kind of fun. You're kind of like building up your game, and then by the end of it, you reset, and then you do it all again. But it's oftentimes there's like a board attached to it or other things that you're doing with it, and so I think that's kind of fun too. People really like those games, it seems like, so I tend to play a lot of them, but not everybody loves them too. I think deck builders are either you love them or you don't.
Yeah, I think I like deck builders. I'm trying to think of ones I've played. Have we played any?
You've played, I know we've played Clank together. That one's a pretty popular one. You're kind of like going through a dungeon, and you have cards that you play that let you move and let you battle. It's been a long time, I think, since we played Clank.
I was going to say, I feel like I've definitely recognized the name, but I have no recollection of playing it. But I believe you. I believe that we actually did.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, and like those games, like I said, they're not like strict card games because there's a board attached to it and there's other things you're doing. But I like them. I still feel like you get some of the satisfaction of like drawing cards and just seeing what's in your hand, which I think is like a lot of the fun of card games. Is you don't just get to do what you want. You're kind of stuck within the confines of what you pulled that hand,
right, or
what you got dealt. And I think that's a really good time. So some good like deck builders are like Clank. Dune Imperium is like the best one. That's a board game in my opinion. It's really, really good, which is a Dune themed card game, board game combo, which I love Dune, but honestly the theme kind of sucks for the game. So you're really just doing it for the game, which is a fun game. So.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as it's fun.
The theming's kind of junk in that one. It just doesn't look very cool. The cards are kind of bland, but the game itself is a blast.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's other like card games that are just, you get a deck of cards that is specific to what the game is. So like one that I really enjoy is called Scout. And it's a ladder game where you're trying to play progressively higher and higher hands.
Okay.
And this one you're trying to kind of shed all your cards. So you're climbing, you're trying to do better and better hands, and then shed your hands down so you have 0 cards to play. And this one, the gimmick with it is you can scout cards where you can, if there's cards that are laid down, say you have like someone played 3 5s and you can't beat that, you can scout and you take one of those 5s and put it into your hand, but you can only take from the ends. And so if they played 5 6 7, you can only take the 5 or the 7, right? And then there's a show where then you can show your hand and raise their stakes, or you can scout and show once per game. And so it's kind of fun. You're trying to figure out the right time to grab a card and play your whole hand.
Yeah.
But you're trying to get runs of cards or pairs of cards or matching cards. The best part about Scout is the cards are double-ended. So it'll be like, say, like a 5 and a 3 or a 10 and a 2. And so depending on which orientation you're holding your cards in, they will be a different number.
Ooh.
But the fun part is you have to play cards that are by each other in your hand. And so if you want to play like a pair of 5s, you can't take a 5 that's on one end and a 5 that's on the other end. So you have to try and rearrange your hand by playing cards in between.
Okay.
And at the start of the game, you get dealt all your cards, and you can determine whether you want them up like this, or if you flip them 180 degrees and take the numbers on the other side.
Ooh.
It's a blast. It's so much fun.
I've never heard of that game. Yeah, that game sounds really fun.
We should absolutely play it.
Okay.
It's a ton of fun. Molly cheated at it. My wife, Molly.
Molly cheated? Not Molly.
She just did not listen to one of the rules I told her, which was she was just reorienting the cards. She basically just swapped her whole hand. I was like, well, that just makes the whole thing work super easily.
Oh, Molly, no.
The whole point is the constraints. But she was like cleaning house in a way that I was like, I get that she's probably better at the game than me, but I also like don't understand how she's this much better.
Look, she has to have something that she's better at you.
She wasn't.
Well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
she
yeah.
had her-
I mean, she's better at most card games and most many other things. So yeah, but she's happy to take that with me on board, or take that from me on board games.
Okay.
Beyond like Everdell and a couple other board games that she's kind of crushes me at. So
Yeah.
it's dependent on the game for sure. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I just really like card games. I feel like there's a lot of fun, like I said, in like drawing the cards. There's a lot of fun in getting dealt your hand and like trying to make stuff work, even if you like have an objectively bad hand, is a ton of fun too.
Yeah, I think for me, card games, like, I know there's just so many out there that I just have never heard. Like Scout, I've never heard of that game before.
Yep.
And I feel like I would get more into card games over, I'm not the biggest board game person, as you know. Like, I just, like, having to learn the rules of a board game seems a lot more complicated than, like, a card game.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Which probably is why I'm probably more inclined to like a card game more.
Yeah.
Or maybe why I like deck builders, because that element, like, is kind of like, okay, I understand this part of the board game at least, even if it's like, other parts of it might be more complicated. So I guess I would just tell people, like, if you're like me and don't like super complicated things, but you think you want to get into board gaming, try card games. Like, there's so many out there that I'm sure you'll find some sort of game that you enjoy.
Yeah, and I would say like deck builders are really good because you can kind of grow your knowledge of the game as you're playing it. You're not necessarily having to learn a ton of cards at once because you're just learning one card at a time as you add it.
Yep.
And then like games like Scout, which is just like, yeah, this game is pretty simple, but it's really good and really like clean. That's a ton of fun. Probably my favorite board game right now. It has a pretty heavy card game element, which is the game's called Arcs, which I've told you about off podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a ton of fun because you essentially, it's a war game of sorts with spaceships and everything, but you're limited in what you can do by the cards you have in your hand, which are like standard types of cards, like 1 through 7. And you do like a little bit of like a trick taking where someone plays a card and then people have to follow, or if they want to pivot, they can, but it's not as good. I don't know. I just feel like card games tend to add a lot of additional tension to games that otherwise maybe wouldn't have them. So that's a ton of fun for me. And then if you're like really invested in, like, say you like the idea of doing like a Magic the Gathering or something that's like a little bit more complicated, but maybe you don't want to be the person who buys packs all the time, there are some games called like living card games, which are, I don't know why they call them this. I think it's like a branded thing. I think it's a publisher called them living card games, so now that's what they're called. But living card games would be things like Arkham Horror or Marvel Champions, where you essentially buy cards once. So if you buy Marvel Champions, you get like 5 heroes in the box and you get 3 villains, and it's a cooperative game. So if you like want to play a more competitive game, or like a more I don't know, I wouldn't want to say thinky, because it's not like it's necessarily more challenging to do well in, even though there's a ton of rules in these games. But like, if you want to do something a little bit more rules intensive, a little bit more dense, those games are really fun. And kind of the fun of it is you're not like, oh, I'm just gonna buy the best cards in the world. Like, all the cards are available. No card is necessarily the best, even though there's, for sure some that are pretty good. And then you like play a campaign, and you're trying to, if you're playing Arkham Horror, you're trying to stop Lovecraftian monsters. If you're playing Marvel Champions, you're trying to stop Thanos. So like, ton of fun. But those games aren't for everybody either. So it's like, you kind of have to figure out what you're most interested in.
Right, like kind of what I said, like there's probably a card game for every situation, because like I know there are hundreds, if not thousands, of card games out there, like whether it is with just a normal deck of cards, or something like Pokemon has been around for how long, Magic the Gathering, like stuff like that has been around for 30 years plus.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's an insane amount of time, to be honest. Like, Magic's been around forever. And I mean, they're a ton of fun too. I think, like, I haven't really played a card game that I explicitly just don't like. Most games that are card centric are pretty fun just because you can cram a bunch of rules on each card, and so when you play the card, you get weird things that happen. Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yep.
Was very simple when I used to play it as a kid. It is
Oh,
not
yeah.
anymore.
It's not anymore.
Yeah, but I think the fun of like those types of games is like figuring out how cards interact and then just making things work with them. So I definitely would recommend that. There's plenty of different mobile card games. I mentioned Balatro earlier. There's also Pokemon, the card game Pocket, which we were playing for a bit.
Yep.
I dipped out. I I needed to call it because I was
yeah.
just opening packs once a day or twice a day, and I was getting just annoyed. so I deleted
really?
it. But like Marvel Snap and all sorts of other games are a ton of fun as well.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like these, I still have the Pokemon app on my phone. I haven't opened a pack in a while, but I was playing a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think we mentioned it in the collecting episode, but
Yeah.
I never really learned how to play the game. So it's kind of fun for me to be like, oh, that's how you play. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
And I like that I don't have to spend money.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you definitely could in the app, but I don't because James and I go and buy real cards now.
Right. You've been collecting the real ones.
Yeah, we like to find the cool art pieces.
Yeah, and I feel like card games are interesting too because there's also just like collectible cards that are just like purely no game attached, like baseball cards and stuff. I don't think there's a game with baseball cards. If there are, that's insane, and I had no idea, but I don't believe so. So
yeah, I don't. I've never heard of anyone playing with their baseball or
it's more
basketball
collectors, collectors item,
cards.
right? Yeah,
It's collectors and trading and whatnot.
Huh.
I guess I don't know. Let us know if there's an actual game involved.
Yeah.
with baseball cards, because that would be interesting.
That would be a wild twist in this whole thing because I would never guess that.
What a twist!
Yeah.
No, I would never either.
Yeah. Do you have any card games in particular that like you have really enjoyed for a long time? Like, I know you mentioned golf. Anything else that you remember? Like, oh yeah, I play this game on the holidays.
Not really. I know, like I played a lot of solitaire with my other grandparents.
Sure. Yeah.
Slapjack, that was a pretty common one.
Yep.
And when I was a child. Otherwise, not really. I feel like we didn't play a lot of cards growing up. And I'm probably completely wrong because we went camping a lot, and I know I have memories of a deck of cards always coming with us, but I cannot tell you what we played. We probably played stuff like Go Fish or
Right, yeah.
Stuff like that. Very kid-friendly things.
Sure.
With a deck of cards. I can't envision us playing anything like poker like that or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah, not really, I guess. Like I said earlier, Slay the Spire was the first like card game that I really got into, I feel like.
Yeah.
That wasn't like solitaire.
That's interesting too because I also feel it's very similar. Like I feel like we're talking about all these games and somebody who's listening might say, well, like, I played like all these, I played like Hearts and Cribbage and I played this and that. And like I played a few of those, but like never really was super into it. I feel like there's some families and some groups that just like love like the basic card games. And I think that's the best thing about them probably is you literally need to spend like $2 and then you have
so many games to play.
Insane amount of endless games to play, and you can get really good at some of them, and some of them you don't really have any way to get good at. They're just for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's like such a fun medium, and something about drawing them and shuffling them and randomized orders and everything is just like a blast. So.
Well, 100%. Card games are really, really fun. And I'm glad you brought this topic up because I wouldn't have thought about it, even though it is such a great topic.
Yeah. When I thought about it, it's like, oh, well, there's like a couple card games that I've been into lately. And I was like, no, there's like at least like 10 or 15 card games that I like rotate through like regularly. So
yeah.
And it's such a broad medium that I feel like there's, like kind of like board games, like you have some that are really deep, some that are not so deep at all, some that are going to be a huge time investment, takes, 4 hours to play, some of them that take like golf, like 3 to 5 minutes, right? So like
right.
There's a lot of kind of wiggle room, which I think is a fun part of the medium. So happy to provide another nerdy topic for this podcast.
Heck yeah.
I know we work so hard to do that, and we don't lean into it ever. That's never our intention,
No,
but it does feel like they keep coming up.
we are definitely not just a couple of nerds talking about different hobbies that we have that happen to be very nerd-centric hobbies.
And definitely not me, because I know I I mentioned last podcast that I was going to come with something more intense and rugged, and I haven't. So I'll think about that. But I feel like card games, like, listen, if I came in and I said poker, though, that would be. But I didn't.
That's
I
true.
said card games, and then we talked about video games for the first bit. So
we did. Yeah,
we'll get there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's
on brand.
That's okay.
That's on brand for us, though.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, any, I guess, final shout-outs from you about card games?
I got nothing, but hey, do you? Because you're the one that plays them, and you probably have a bunch in the back of your head going, oh, this game. Any final thoughts? Go!
Yes, obviously Slay the Spire, obviously Balatro, play those games. They're a ton of fun. Both of them I'd highly recommend to pretty much anybody. Get a 52 deck of cards if you don't have one. That's crazy if you don't, but I would imagine if you don't have one, you could find a lot of fun with it. But yeah, other than that, I'd say like deck builders are great. Some of those like collector card games are fun, like One Piece, but don't play those. Please don't do it. I'm not going to be responsible for that. So if I have to say one game...
Sorry, they can play it. We will not take responsibility for any financial distress they go through.
Correct. But if there's one card game, I know I shouted it out already, but like play Scout. It's a ton of fun, super easy. It's like $20. So it's a big win. It's not too expensive, and you can get a lot of fun out of it. So final recommendation, just play Scout. It's a board game card game that you can play in person. Ton of fun. Okay,
I will have to check that out as well. You have it, so when I come over next time, we could try it out.
We can break it out for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. Well, thanks, Matt, for such a fun topic. I was kind of wondering how much we could talk about cards, and then I realized later, like, oh, wait, there's so much we could talk about. So thanks for bringing this to the table.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, happy to provide a fun one. So, yeah, and we'll be back next time with another topic from you.
Yeah.
Maybe a guest. We'll see. But probably
We'll see. Probably.
But yeah, thanks for picking my brain about it.
You're welcome. I'm happy to pick your brain. And thank you for everyone listening. Please share it. I'm really bad about promoting this, so please spread the word that this podcast is out if you enjoyed it.
We exist.
But thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.